Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Do you remember last week I posted up a defeat in my Tier 4 Soviet cruiser, the Svetlana, where I managed to sink half the enemy team on this map, the Solomons, and did 132,000 damage. Well, there's always somebody who's just got to go one better, isn't there? And this is him. This is Infidel. I swear, if I said I'd gone to Tenerife, Infidel would say that he'd gone to 11 Reef. He, well, to be strictly fair, I have actually had this replay for a while, and I just never got around to showing it. There was always something else. It was, well, I did a World of Warships video yesterday, today I should do World of Tanks, or, oh, Armoured Warfare, I got a new patch out, I need to cover that. And for one reason or another, this video just kept slipping further and further and further behind. And I thought, you know what, in light of what happened in my Svetlana game last week, and well, the fact that World of Warships is about to hit a major patch, and this battle is going to be out of date, I thought, I need to get this battle shown, because what Infidel does in this game is nothing short of spectacular. There are 12 ships on the enemy team. Now, when I was here last week in a Tier 4 cruiser, I managed to sink 6 of them. And the final 2 ran away rather than fight me, which was the smart thing to do because it meant they won. Infidel's going to try for all 12. No, really. Well, I didn't say he was going to sink all 12, I said he was going to try for all 12. Right, he's been spotted by aircraft. He is, of course, in the Minakaze, the Japanese Tier 5 destroyer. Standard destroyer tactic at the start of the match: head for the slot down the middle of the islands here on the Solomons and get rid of your torpedoes. Hey, you never know, you might hit something. Torpedo bombers overhead. He's got his AA guns turned off. Yeah, well, turning your AA guns off in a Minakaze at the start of the battle isn't a terrible idea, because the anti-aircraft guns on this thing are terrible in the first place. And if things get busy and you forget that your AA guns are switched on and you're trying to lurk around the safety of an island and you get spotted by aircraft because you start shooting at them, it can lead to a sticky situation. So turning them off, not a terrible idea, but when you're spotted by them anyway and you're shielded from further enemy fire, there's absolutely no harm whatsoever in flicking the guns back on and taking some shots at them. And what's that? It's a Kazi up there in a very, very obvious smoke screen. And he's not using it effectively. Well, we can tell that he's not using it effectively for a couple of very obvious reasons. He's getting shot. And you can see as he pops in and out of cover from the smoke screen, all these enemy ships pop in and out of vision because he's the one spotting them. So if he can see them, that means he doesn't have the smoke screen between himself and them. He's probably going too fast. 12.5 knots is the maximum effective speed to stay concealed inside your smokescreen, and he's dead, and as soon as he dies we lose sight of those enemy ships around the corner. They are now gaining the advantage of that smokescreen. So Infidel slows, turns, fires his torpedoes into the smoke, speeds up, and proceeds to get the hell out of there. So the team is down 1 Tier 4 destroyer, and they're about to be down 1 Tier 3 cruiser, and bang, there he goes. Tenryu class cruiser. It looked like the torpedo bombers killed him, but it was actually a hidden destroyer down there in the slot, possibly lurking in that smoke screen. Speaking of which, where are the enemy ships that nailed? There they go. There's the Bogatyr, and we've been spotted, and there's the Kuma. And, well, the Kuma threaded the needle and avoided the torpedoes, but the Bogatyr didn't, and that's good, because now it means he only has to deal with the Kuma. There is a Wyoming popped up in the background there, but he's too far away to be an immediate threat, and he's firing at something else. Anyway, now the Kuma, Tier 4 cruiser, very nice ship. Not really a cruiser as much as a big destroyer. It was in fact designed to be the flagship for a destroyer squadron. It's got lots of very effective guns, but it's also got torpedo launchers, and when a Kuma turns like that, you know he is launching torpedoes at you, because he also wasn't firing his guns, and well, that just made it easy for Infidel to get torpedoes into him. Kuma really should have used his guns there. To be fair to the Kuma, he was probably screwed no matter what he did, but he could have actually done some damage if he used his guns rather than trying to turn around and get those torpedoes into the water. So, first 2 kills, pretty easy. He's spotted by aircraft again, but only momentarily. Meanwhile, USS Nicholas over there. American Tier 5 destroyer. Very, very good little ship with some excellent guns. Unfortunately, once again, we're seeing somebody who's not really making proper effective use of his smokescreen as he's being engaged by that premium Tier 5 Murmansk over there, which is to all intents and purposes an American Omaha class scout cruiser, except better. Now you can see that the Nicholas is making torpedo attacks on the Murmansk, but they're so badly aimed, they're missing the Murmansk by kilometres, and the Murmansk is putting some pretty accurate fire into the Nicholas, who is obviously not concealed inside that smokescreen. Infidel's own torpedoes miss. This Murmansk clearly knows what he's doing. The Nicholas fires his torpedoes off again. I'm not even sure that they have the range to hit the Murmansk from there. Possibly the Nicholas is just convinced he's about to die and he thinks, well, screw it. Maybe the Murmansk will turn into them. And that is in fact exactly what's happened, as the Murmansk turned in to avoid Infidel's torpedoes. Turning in, however, has reduced the range, and Infidel's now been spotted. The Murmansk obviously continues firing on the Nicholas, knocks him out, and has to continue approaching in order to avoid the Nicholas's torpedoes, putting him into more or less exactly the same situation that the Kuma was in earlier. The Murmansk, however, at least has the sense to know that he has to keep his guns firing, and he has managed to knock out Infidel's engines momentarily, which is making him a much easier target for the Murmansk's own torpedoes, and there they are. He's killed the Murmansk. He's managed to get his engines up just in time to avoid the torpedo attack. Murmansk down, just the Wyoming left, who has to be shitting bullets around about now. As his entire cruiser screen, the Bogatyr, the Kuma and the Murmansk have just been destroyed, and he's just completely run out of friends. Infidel once again spotted, but, well, doesn't really matter. The Wyoming's going to have to get very, very lucky in order to hit him with his main battery guns. And again, well, the Wyoming does turn broadside on, but he's completely out of options at this point. He's going to die. And the only thing he can do here is get as many guns as possible firing at Infidel. That means all of his main battery guns and all of his secondaries. This is, of course, making him an exceptionally easy torpedo target, but under the circumstances, he has no other choice. So, yeah, not an awful lot else that the Wyoming could have done. Maybe attempted to go for the Ram, but the Minakaze would have been able to avoid him. So there's kill number 4, there's another devastating strike, and there's the high caliber award already. So, Infidel has more or less single-handedly cleared this entire sector of the map. And yeah, okay, the Isakaze and the Nicholas were here as well, but they didn't really hit anything, did they? They just died. Anyway, while Infidel is tracing the path of those torpedo bombers in order to find the enemy carriers, let's just have a quick recap. His team have managed to sink 6 ships. Infidel has accounted for 4 of them, so he's managed to kill twice as many ships as the rest of his team combined. And these are not kill steals we're talking about here. He has killed all of these enemy ships. The only other 2 players on his team who have been capable of killing anything in this match are both dead. His team's 2 carriers are actually sitting here, which is in range of the guns of the enemy battleships. And the one surviving battleship on his team is up here. He looks AFK, he isn't. AFK would actually probably have been better. In fact, because it's funny, we're going to take a quick break from the ongoing action here just to show you what that battleship has been doing this entire game. Here it is. What's this? This is hilarious. Just in case you're not absolutely clear which one he is, he's the battleship whose sole contribution to this game so far has been to take a sort of slow, leisurely cruise around the island in the middle of the spawn point, and just when it looks as if he might actually be about to get involved in the fight, he turns around and completes a circle around the island and heads back to right where he started. This is at about the point where Infidel is sinking the Murmansk, he's heading for the Wyoming, and our friend in the battleship is proving to be about as much use to this team as an ashtray on a motorbike. So let's not count on him for any help and support. Meanwhile, Infidel is about ready to commence his attack on the enemy carriers. He can see the Langley. He did spot the Hosho earlier, but he's momentarily obscured from vision. And what he doesn't want to do here is just sail straight through that cap circle towards the enemy carriers, because if there is anybody on the enemy team who's capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, don't laugh, sometimes it happens, and they realise that they're being capped, that's going to tell them that there's an enemy destroyer somewhere in the cap circle. And at least one of those carrier captains is actually capable of thinking and breathing at the same time. Watch these aircraft. Now normally you would expect the dive bombers, the fighters, the torpedo bombers that you can see returning to be empty, to have dropped their bombs, launched their torpedoes and be coming back to refuel and rearm. But at least one of those carriers is vectoring these aircraft over here because he knows there's a destroyer that was up north, just sank 4 enemy ships, and is going to be here any second now. Those torpedo bombers in particular, and you can see Infidel, he's not just assuming that they're empty, he's keeping an eye on them, and it's just as well he does, because those torpedoes are aimed at him. Again, you'll notice that he never turns his anti-aircraft guns on, and while, yeah, I know the Minakaze's AA guns are pretty terrible, even if he shoots one of these dive bombers or torpedoes down, that's just increasing his chances of survival, and it isn't hurting him by doing so, because he's spotted anyway. Although it's easy to sit here in judgment, he did have an awful lot to worry about at the time. He's under dive bomber attack, he's under torpedo bomber attack, he's spotted by both of those carriers, gets his torpedoes away, and then does something highly unusual for a Japanese destroyer captain. He uses his guns, and it's just as well that he did, because his first salvo sets the Hosho on fire and puts his flight deck out of operation. And that is potentially going to save his ass, because the Hosho's secondary batteries knock his engines out. He uses his damage control ability to get his engine back up, swings the ship around while still under fire from the Hosho's secondaries, gets his next set of torpedoes away. The Hosho's secondaries open up and knock his engine out again. The Hosho uses his damage control ability to extinguish the flames on the flight deck and get a second set of torpedo bombers in the air, but not in time to give those torpedo bombers orders. And that's going to be critical, because Infidel is a sitting duck. He's managed to get another set of torpedoes away against the Langley, but the Langley has started to move, and only one of those torpedoes is going to hit. Infidel's engines are out, he's on low health. That hit on the Langley just gave him the Confederate to go with his Kraken high caliber and 5 devastating strikes, and at some point that Wyoming over there has got to wake up and realise that there's a destroyer running riot among the aircraft carriers. But not just yet, it's going to be a while. Now, he's managed to get his engines back up again by using his damage control ability. But the smoke screen is in a direct line of sight between him and the Langley, so he fires blind, 2 narrow spreads and 1 wide spread just to cover all the bases. Clears the smoke screen, gets spotted again, but does spot the Langley, and that blind torpedo launch does look pretty good. There are, of course, a lot of aircraft overhead. Now, most of those are going to be aircraft launched from the Hosho, and they're going to be flying around without orders, just circling. They're still going to keep him spotted, however, but not all of those aircraft are from the Hosho. The problem is he can't tell which ones are from the Langley and which ones aren't, so he doesn't know which ones to be taking evasive action from, but guess what? Yeah, those ones. Look at this. Oh, actually, no, I think we're going to be alright. And oh, looks like the Wyoming has woken up, and he's managed to sink the Langley. But then, disaster strikes. Suddenly, a wild Minakaze appears. The Wyoming's missed because, well, it's a Wyoming. Infidel gets his torpedoes away against the Minakaze, and the enemy Minakaze, well, he must have torpedoes in the water because he's not been firing, and does in fact start shooting. Highly unusual for a Japanese destroyer captain. Scores some minor damage, but while he's concentrating on firing, sails straight into Infidel's torpedoes. The Wyoming misses again because it's a Wyoming. That's what they do. And Infidel is easily able to avoid that very, very wide torpedo spread from the enemy Minakaze. How many kills is he on now? All of them, I think. That Wyoming over there is going to be getting pretty nervous around about now. Infidel is, of course, still spotted. There's all of those aircraft circling overhead without orders. And the Wyoming, well, he nearly hits him. That's not bad. Unfortunately, you don't get any prizes for nearly hitting. Nearly hitting is the same as missing. Infidel's priority now is to get out of the detection range of those aircraft. Now, while he definitely didn't want to sail through the cap circle earlier because that was going to alert the carriers to the fact that he was about to pounce on them, once he gets clear of the aircraft over there and he's no longer spotted, sailing into the enemy cap circle is not a terrible idea because, well, they're only going to take 1 or possibly 2 solid hits from either of those 2 Wyomings over there who can still see him, and that was close. But now he's no longer spotted. And he's in your base, capping your flag, which means those two Wyomings are going to have to come over here and flush him out themselves unless they want to lose. They're not going to get any help from the remaining destroyer on their team. That enemy Nicholas over there has an equally important job over in Infidel's cap circle. He's just nailed one of our carriers. He's going after that battleship who's been playing Ring of Roses around the island in the middle of the spawn point. And that Nicholas over there could be a game changer, because if either of these two Wyomings can hit Infidel and reset the cap, that Nicholas kills the battleship, kills the other carrier, he can win by capping. So there's no pressure whatsoever on these two Wyomings. All they have to do is sail into a contested cap circle, find and hit, which is a challenge enough in the Wyoming, an invisible Japanese destroyer who's already sunk 7 of your teammates. You've got to feel sorry for these guys. What a position to be in. That enemy Nicholas, however, right up at the other end of the map, he's got a bit of a mountain to climb. He's been under constant attack from both of the friendly aircraft carriers. He's managed to sink one of them. Now he's closing in on the battleship. He needs to sink him, he needs to sink the other carrier, then he needs to get back in the cap circle, and he needs to pray that one of these Wyomings manages to score a hit on Infidel and reset the cap down here. So the odds are not in their favour. The Wyomings, however, are not making it easy for Infidel, and at least one of them has proven that he's a pretty accurate shot, and Infidel's been spotted. He's gotten his torpedoes away, but he's sailed within detection range. He wanted to get as close as possible to give these Wyomings the least possible time to evade the torpedoes, and that was damn close. But he's not taking any chances, despite the fact that the Wyomings can only fire their front two turrets. The Wyoming's high explosive shells do a lot of damage, so he uses his smoke screen, and then disaster strikes up in the top northwestern corner of the map. The Nicholas managed to kill the New York class battleship, but the New York's secondary gunners at least knew what they were doing as the New York earns himself the Close Quarters Expert Award by knocking out the Nicholas with his secondary gun batteries. Probably set him on fire. And once again, the fire from these Wyomings is coming very, very, very close. But they've managed to avoid every single torpedo that Infidel has fired at them. Yet they've proven that they're not stupid enough to present the broadside of their ship to a destroyer, so Infidel is going to have to do something a bit risky here. He closes in. He's going to get as close as he possibly can and shove these torpedoes right down the Wyoming's throats. Now this is going to expose them to a lot of fire from the secondary batteries and the main gun batteries of the Wyoming, who finally lands a hit on him. But just resetting the cap isn't good enough at this point. He needs to kill him, and the chances are not in his favour. There's no way you can avoid a torpedo attack launched at this kind of range. All he can do now is hope that his secondaries, and possibly his central gun turret, does manage to score a big old hit. Knocks his engines out, sets him on fire, but his damage control ability is off cooldown. He's able to immediately control the damage, and there is no way that Wyoming was ever going to survive a torpedo attack from that kind of range. But hang on a minute, weren't there two Wyomings down there? Where did the other one go? Oh, there he is. What? Wow, this winning games is overrated, apparently. He would far rather take his ship for a little walk. What the hell could he possibly have been thinking? Why would you... What? I don't even... No, I'm sorry, I've got nothing. The Wyoming, who actually... I mean, were you not aware that you were being capped? Could you not see that what does he think he's going to achieve by sailing? Oh, I know, I'll sneak around and ambush him. In a battleship. You saw how close the first Wyoming came to killing Infidel. If this guy had been with him, this match could have been over. The carrier's out of aircraft. The carrier is actually attempting to ram. That's how close this match was. There are people who have been in chat complaining on the enemy team about how crap their team was. And, well, you know, when you look at battleships like this, they have a point. But at the same time, Infidel's on 8 kills here. There are only 3 other ships on his team that have managed to sink anything, and one of those didn't even do it himself. It was his secondary AI gunners who got the kill for him. So Infidel's team isn't exactly comprised of rocket scientists here either. You know, this is no Clash of the Titans battle that we're witnessing here, you know what I'm saying? Infidel is going to finish this match with 3 times the number of kills of the rest of his team combined. And there it is, kill number 9. He nailed the Wyoming eventually. Wow. I have no words to describe what I have just seen. 9 kills and over 200,000 damage done in a tier 5 game on the Solomon Islands map. After that match, Infidel dropped the mic and exited stage left. I hope you enjoyed today's World of Warships video, folks. That's it for today. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.